Alright, welcome back to After the Storm. This episode is going to be recapping the Carolina Hurricanes and Vegas Golden Knights game from last night. And there's obviously some housekeeping in order to be done before we get going here too much. So to start off with, I think this is the first video I've done in about 4 months or so this actually feels kind of weird doing it again. One of the major reasons why I stopped doing the videos was because I got, when I started them I was unemployed. And then I got a job where I was working nights, so it was very hard to actually watch the games because they were basically starting in my morning. So I'd wake up and I'd watch a game and then I would go straight to work. So it was very difficult to prioritize doing the videos and having enough time between working literally all the way through the night, right into the morning, and then coming home to be able to sit down and do the video extremely exhausted from what I was doing. Now, thankfully, I'm working in the daytime, so it's a little bit easier. However, I do miss a lot of the games as they happen. So with that in mind, the videos will probably be more or less staggered, but I should be able to get them done and out the day after the game, just like we're seeing with this one. The other main reason why I felt like I was a little bit too rehearsed with the videos, I was writing down notes for the game mostly, and then I would kind of just go off bullet points. But even then, I felt it was like a little bit too rehearsed, and I wasn't having as much fun as I thought I could have with it, and that's really what I wanted to end up doing. And the other aspect, too, is I wanted to do more with my channel, and I've done that. So a lot of gaming stuff is going to be coming to the channel. On YouTube specifically, there's going to be a little bit of content, but I am starting a Patreon where you can support me for like $3 is what I set the tier at. There's just a single tier at the moment, because I want to make sure I have enough people in first, as weird as that might sound. And I want to make sure that I can do enough content that actually warrants another level of a tier for people to pay more money. So the Patreon link is going to be in the description of this video. If you don't mind, rather, I would love if you could support me that way. It's just a little bit of change. It's about $3 a month. It's not a whole lot of money, but it helps me create more content, and especially when not doing it for free, not waiting for a monetization, not waiting for watch hours, and especially with all the regulations that are now coming in with YouTube, it makes it a lot easier for me to do this and actually push myself to do more of it and make it more fun. So how I used to do the game review videos, I'm going to change that up a bit. I don't want to do it the exact same way as I did before. Just mostly because I didn't feel like I was having enough fun with it. I was, like I said earlier, I was doing bullet points. I was very monotone. Like even listening to it back, I felt very like, oh, I'm just somebody who's reading words on a page. It didn't come across like natural. It didn't come across fun. And that's, especially today with hockey fans going back and forth and everybody being upset with the NHL about reffing issues and yada, yada, yada. I really wanted to start making this sort of fun. So going forward, I probably won't get into too many of the details. I probably won't talk about as many plays as before. I'm probably going to just try to talk about, what I liked, what I didn't like, and try to make it fun in the process as best as I can do that. It's not very easy to do, but I'm going to try my best to do that. And mostly, I don't want somebody to come watch the video and just see somebody talking about hockey, because who am I really to just talk about hockey and make it sound like a copy of what you could just see on a broadcaster by going and looking at a highlight package with the actual hockey being there. So I'm going to try to concisely talk about the game, what I liked, share some observations. I might start making some segments. So we're going to start with this one. I'm probably going to do that very plainly for this one, just to have this one out of the way and start getting back into the flow of things. And lastly, jumping back to one of the other reasons was I didn't have a really good setup, I thought at the time, to do this. I was actually recording my video and audio separately and then trying to sync them together, and it just really wasn't working out. I was getting desyncs halfway through, and for anybody who's ever made a video, you can probably understand that type of thing when you're dealing with a lot of editing and jump cuts and the like. It really was upsetting to get, I think most of my videos ended up between like 10 and like 16 minutes long. somewhere in that range, and I would get to like maybe minute 5 or 6 of doing edits and jump cuts and having everything looking how I wanted it to look, and then realizing as I play it back to myself, none of this is aligned. I had the sound either behind or way too far ahead, or whatever the case may be, and it wasn't how I wanted it to be, and I wanted to make sure when I came back with other things, or other videos I should say, that it was better, and I wasn't dealing with so many issues that might make videos. One of the big things was I was using not a great video editing software platform for it, and as you could see, you would notice like between the jump cuts, you'd see like a red screen come up, like almost in the color of the flag behind me, and I just didn't like how that looked at all. It just looked unprofessional and it looked cheaply made. So I wanted to make sure that when I did come back with it, it was in a better situation, which I believe is where I'm at now. So without further ado, let's get into the game from last night, and we'll talk about more Patreon stuff at the end. So this was the first game for the Hurricanes since the All-Star break, and wow, did they start off poorly. The whole first period, they just looked slow out of the gate. It didn't look like the team had any energy for being off for so long. Obviously, there's the injury to Dougie Hamilton and everything along with that. So the rest isn't really there for certain guys anymore like it was earlier in the season. First period, it did not start well. Vegas, 2 quick early goals. It looked like the game was going to be done when there was a penalty early on. It did not look good for the team to begin, to say the least. Thankfully, the Canes killed the penalty off, get to the end of the first intermission. The game just didn't look good at all. The first period ended 2-0 for the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Canes did not come out at all in the first period. They just felt sluggish. The shots were 15-5, I think, for Vegas, and they just looked like they were completely outmatched. So into the second period now, and a really smart play, I thought, from between Teravainen and Slavin. Comes into the zone, spins off, gets the puck. He's like on a 4v1 there. It looked like a horrible play. I thought Teravainen was just going to turn it over. And gets it to Slavin, and Slavin immediately put it behind the net to find Aho. And Aho in front finds Turbo. Turbo somehow manages to get the puck through, and it's a 2-1 hockey game looking completely different. So for sure on this goal, a bit of a momentum swing. And that's pretty much how the period ended. Carolina really did control play a lot more. They were certainly better than they were in the first period, into the second. And that's pretty much all you can ask after a start like that. Peter Mrazek really kept them in the game. He made a bunch of big saves. Where would they have been last night without him? I know there was lots of Canes fans actually blaming Mrazek for this one. And I mean, for sure the start he had was really tough, but like he was not the guy to blame in this one. Into the third now, the Canes were controlling a lot of the play. It was a lot of back and forth, and just kind of when they were getting chances and it looked like they were going to get back into this, Nate Schmidt on a beautiful pass picks it up right over the blocker of Mrazek, and it's 3-1 suddenly. And at this point, I was kind of setting in that this was not going to be a win. It looked like Vegas was then going to take control back of the game. Right off the draw, though, comes right back down. Brock McGinn scores, and it's 3-2. I think all season, one of the better things about getting scored on for this team is that Brendan Moore will actually end up throwing out like an energy line right after. And it worked here, and I think it's worked a lot this season. And McGinn gets a goal, 3-2. I think there's about 7 minutes or so left in the third. And we might do this. Just under 4 minutes later, a power play for the Canes. A shot from the point, tipped just by like the toe of the stick by Aho, gets right up over the blocker of Malcolm Subban, barred down, perfect. We are tied, and it looks like the Canes are going to manage a point out of this one. However, right after a one-timer by Joel Edmondson at the point, he shatters his stick. I think people were, on Twitter especially, were angry about the shattered stick, but the play that ensued here, Sebastian Aho hooks Pacioretty, and it was just a lazy play. Maybe I'm going a little bit too hard at Aho on this one, but man, I didn't like this at all. If he had just had the sense to look up and look and realize that Edmondson had already got his stick off the bench. Gardner was back in position. I don't think Aho needs to even hook Pacioretty. Take your chance and let Mrazek make this save. Besides getting beat by a very clean shot from Nate Schmidt on the third goal, and in the rough start at the beginning of the first, there was no reason to think Mrazek can't stop a wide shot in the zone from Max Pacioretty. So Vegas goes on the power play after the hooking call by Aho. I don't even think it was 20 seconds into the power play. Vegas scores an easy goal, and that's going to be the game winner. Carolina really never even got back into the zone, never even got set up. They didn't really generate any chances. And that's just a tough, not really a tough one, because the Canes really didn't deserve to be in this game. But it's just one of those games where you can see that the one play just made a real big difference. And that really sucked, because I think that's not a penalty you need to take. And what it demonstrates to me more than anything else is the team doesn't have as much trust in Peter Mrazek as they do James Reimer right now. For a team that's running a 1A and a 1B goalie like the Canes are, that's just problematic, because you're going to get different types of play based on who the goalie is that night. And this team has played really well in front of James Reimer, and James Reimer has absolutely returned that favor to the team. But we're looking at Peter Mrazek right now, and I just don't think the way he's played and the way the team's played in front of him, I don't think he's the starter right now. I think it's Reimer. So that's going to do it for this game. Tough loss. Canes are still holding on to the last wildcard spot. Just looking, at this team, looking at the injuries that were eventually going to come, and the big one to Dougie Hamilton, him being out long term, is not good for this team, because his impact is really missed. He's so good on the back end, maybe the most underrated D-man in the league right now, and that's even on a team with Jakob Slavin and Brett Pesce. The infusion of Williams back into the lineup has been really good. I will actually credit that. A lot of fans were upset, saying he didn't start the season with us. Why do we need him now? We need this guy no matter what. Especially going in, if you want to compete in the playoffs, look, he's been on a team that went in as the 8th seed, the LA Kings, in 2012, and literally was Mr. Game 7 the whole way through. We absolutely need Justin Williams going forward. With that said, if Eric Hala's reported issues are actually true, well, there's a conversation to be had about moving Eric Hala before the deadline. One thing I really liked early on in the season that's just not happening anymore is Brendamore and Waddell just don't seem committed to calling anybody from Charlotte up. I mean, we played the back and forth game, and I can understand why it's not happening with a forward now, because Williams is back. But I don't see why you don't call up Jake Bean or Roland McEwen right now, because just to rotate guys still on defense. I think Charlotte's doing well down in the AHL, but you could probably benefit from putting a younger guy like Jake Bean into this lineup right now. I think it would be very beneficial. All right, so enough about the Canes. That game's over and done with. We're moving on to the next one on Sunday. Let's get back to talking about the Patreon stuff and what I'm planning on doing going forward. So, with the Patreon stuff, it's a subscription-based service, kind of like Netflix, kind of like Amazon Prime, anything you're looking at in that regard. I have it set at $3 a month. There's going to be some gaming stuff that drops on both YouTube and, of course, on Patreon, but there will be a lot of stuff that's just Patreon exclusive. So if you like the content that is coming onto YouTube, please consider subscribing. So if you like the content that is coming onto YouTube, please consider subscribing to the Patreon, because it helps me, and it just gives me more freedom on what I'm trying to do with my whole platform here. So things I have planned, I've got a group of friends on Xbox that I play games with all the time. So we're going to do some group play stuff with like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Smite, NHL even in there. I'm going to try to do like an episodic sort of series with each of the friends that I have, if they're interested. And I know I've got a couple off the hop right now. So going to be coming for sure. We've already started doing Saints Row 4. So recording episodes for that, and then I'll edit them and throw them up. And we're going to do A Way Out, which is a game that got released, I guess about 2 years ago now, in like an only co-op story mode, which is really cool, really different, and haven't gotten around to playing the entire game, so it's a really cool opportunity just to get that game, because it really is a cool little story about these guys escaping prison. And lastly, I'm going to go back and do some retro gaming. So one of my favorite NHL titles is NHL 2003. And I'm going to go back and do like a screen capture as I play and do a little bit of commentary over that for like a franchise mode in that. So you're going to see a lot of like older names. I'm not sure which team I'm going to do that. I might leave that up to a vote if people are interested in doing a vote. But I'm really excited to do that because it's one of my easily my favorite NHL game of all time. It's like the awesome mix of like presentation and arcadiness and gameplay. Like it's just a cool, fun, constantly fun NHL game that we really don't see with the current version. They really went to the realism side, where this one is kind of a nice mix. Additionally, the commentary team of Don Taylor and Jim Houston are just hilarious. It produces some of the best lines you could ever even think of. So I'm going to be doing that, and odds are I'm probably going to do probably like my favorite like cult classic game from years ago that I used to play, and I just went back and it's just hilarious to go back and play it now, is Def Jam Fight for New York. So that, combined with NHL 2003, are going to be the retro gaming. There's going to be some group play with some of the bigger name games out there. And then there's going to be a couple with A Way Out and Saints Row. So there's going to be lots of content dropping. My plan is to drop content Thursday, Friday, Saturday every week. So a bunch of videos come up. But as I am just starting into this a little bit, I'm going to just see, how it goes to start. So links will be in the description for this video. If you did like the video, please consider giving a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, and I will see you guys later.